of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre. May she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
When a sitting congressman names Epstein's influential associates on the record, and the FBI director still avoids responding, it raises serious questions. Today, you'll see that moment play out as it happens.
Here saying I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. The second document is entitled What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections. The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals Planned Meetings with Obama Admin Official, CIA Chief. And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former Prime Minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel. It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes.
Without objection, the gentleman will hold for a second. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one UC request. This is Judge Engelmeyer's decision from August in U.S. versus Epstein, stating the government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files dwarfs the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials.
Without objection, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007 and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre. May she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to the social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file. And I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation January 6th? And have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter?
As to the first, it's an ongoing investigation, and we have made progress. As to the second, sir, I'll have to get back to you.
All right. Thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous
Gentleman
consent
yields back.
request.
Unanimous consent request from the gentleman from New York.
I ask unanimous consent to introduce an unsigned memorandum from July 7, 2025 that says we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation.
What you just saw wasn't a routine oversight hearing. It was one of the sharpest confrontations yet between Congress and the intelligence establishment over the unanswered questions surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's network. Representative Thomas Massie pressed FBI Director Kash Patel with a series of pointed questions. Were there other powerful men Epstein allegedly trafficked victims to? Do files exist naming them? And if so, why has there been so little accountability? These aren't casual curiosities. They fit a pattern. For years, the Epstein saga has been marked by secrecy, sealed records, redacted documents, and influential figures seemingly protected from exposure. But what made this exchange so striking is that Massie wasn't drawing from rumor. He referenced FBI files, FD 302s, victim statements, and sworn testimony naming high-profile individuals, financiers, businessmen, a royal, a producer, and others. And Patel's response? A masterclass in avoidance. He didn't deny the existence of the documents. He didn't dispute the victims' accounts. He simply distanced himself, saying he hadn't personally reviewed the records, that multiple offices had already examined them, and that the system found no credible evidence. But that raises its own question. Who decides what counts as credible? Especially when the institutions doing the reviewing have every incentive to protect themselves. This isn't new. The Epstein investigation has long brushed up against the intelligence world. Former Labor Secretary Alex Acosta once said he was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave the case alone. Whether that claim was accurate or not, it shows how deeply the case has been perceived to intersect with powerful interests. Even after Epstein's 2019 arrest, the flow of information was tightly controlled. Files were heavily redacted. Victims were limited in what they could publicly discuss. And the names of alleged participants, some of the wealthiest and most influential men on Earth, remained shielded from view. So when Patel says, "I haven't personally reviewed the documents," it doesn't read as transparency. It reads as strategic ambiguity, a way institutions protect themselves through layers of bureaucracy, oversight loops, and ongoing investigations that never seem to conclude. And when Massie asked whether the FBI had met with victims, Patel's pivot to, "We'll meet with anyone with information," revealed something deeper. A system that often treats victims as data points, not as people. These women aren't information. They are survivors whose lives were shattered while the world looked the other way. This is bigger than Epstein. It's about the kind of justice system we live under, one that appears to shield power rather than confront it. When an FBI director can sit under oath and avoid naming a single trafficker, despite files that reportedly contain names, that's not justice. That looks like institutional decay. That's why this moment matters. In real time, we're watching the limits of truth inside a system that may not be built to expose all of it. And it leaves us with one uncomfortable question. What happens when the people responsible for revealing the truth are the same ones who benefit from keeping it hidden? If you believe accountability should apply to everyone, not just the powerless, then stay engaged. Keep asking the questions others won't. That's how real change begins. Please subscribe to my channel, where we cut through political theater and shine light on what's really happening inside America's institutions.